Welcome back, episode 132 of The Grouch and the Brainstorm. I am Mike, and I am joined today with Nicole. Say hi, Nicole.
Hi.
And Matt.
Hey, everybody.
And today, us three are going to be The Grouch and the Brainstorm. How about that? And any mistakes we make, guess what, Matt? My daughter has access to this. She can edit them all out. And I have another podcast, actually, and I've never published any. I just record them and store them on a hard drive. Believe it or not, it has nothing to do with recovery. It's about manly men and people who go the extra mile. You know, they just smell like fear and testosterone. And Matt is my subject of every single one of those. So, no, actually. But I sent her a copy of 6 episodes yesterday. And they're 20 minutes long, right? And she got to edit. I sent her 6 of them to edit before I publish them. And she sent me back a list of crap I do wrong on them. And I was just like, you know what? I may not even move forward with this thing just because I was so pissed off. So, but Matt, we have a special speaker today, and that is Nicole.
We do.
But guess what, Matt? Before that, it is an episode of The Grouch and the Brainstorm. You know what happens? Yeah.
Come on.
Announcements. So I have only one. Do you have any?
I have one.
Okay, so that's 2.
Let's
have yours first, Matt. Let's hear yours first.
We have in our area, we have Tri-State going on this weekend. So, if you want to hear some, folks from outside of our area that you probably wouldn't get to see, that's a great thing to do. And you can look it up on the central office website here, and they can direct you to all that good stuff. But they've got stuff going all weekend. So we're actually, Nicole and I are at the Koala Club now, and they have a kickoff meeting, and we have a speaker tonight that I hope we can get on the podcast one day as well, JD. And so he's going to be speaking in a little while, but yeah, big event for us every year here. So
I forgot that was this coming. That's today. I forgot tonight was the kickoff speaker as well.
Mm-hmm.
So my only announcement is one. I was going to actually say this on the episode. I don't know, the one where you recorded the guy in Florida. But my grandfather just celebrated his 94th birthday.
Speaking of manly men.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's been dead for years, but we celebrate his birthday. No, I'm kidding.
I know that was coming, man.
He is very, very much still with us in a coffee can, but he's still with us. So no, I didn't even know it. I saw some pictures on Instagram, and that's how I find out what goes on in my family. But he made 94 years, and pretty cool deal. You know, anything after whatever, not 94 years of sobriety, believe me, not 94 years of sobriety.
Hey, that's tough. Yeah.
But 94 years alive. So, and I think that's the only announcement I had. So you want to introduce the speaker so we can move on?
I'm going to introduce her, and I'm going to let her go to town kind of, and we're going to interrupt and be rude and ask her questions. But this is Nicole, and she's been kind of coming over here to the Koala Club and been doing really well. But I'm going to let her give her sobriety date and kind of get started, and then we'll jump in and interrupt her. You know, that's what we do.
Let's do it. Hit it, Nicole.
All right. And my sobriety date is October 8th of 2024. That is not my first sobriety date. I've been coming around the Koala Club for a while. Can I keep going?
Yeah.
I was sober about 4 years ago for about 9 months, and I guess I just didn't get enough, and I needed to go explore and experiment more. And I did, and it brought me right back here. It was probably the worst 3 years of my life. I got all the wins, or it's yet. Earlier, I didn't believe that those would happen to me. I thought I was completely different than everyone. I came into the rooms because my daughter said, I had a problem, which I already knew. And my daughter brought me. And shortly after that, I stayed. I probably was drinking on the weekends, to be completely honest, and just showing up to the meetings during the week. I didn't think I was like everyone. I really thought that I was different. I'm like, I don't get along with these people. They're not going to be fun. So I eventually went back out and found out that I was not only alcoholic, but, a bad alcoholic. I was terrible to my friends. I was terrible to my kids. And I got to the point where I just didn't want to go on anymore. I was defeated. And during that time, I was dragging my kids through it, dragging myself through it, trying to string along some time. And, I was one of the alcoholics that was able to like stop for a few days and didn't have to drink during the week. But when it came to the weekends or anytime I did drink, my sole goal was to get drunk. I wasn't, just hanging on and hoping that, I would have one or two. I knew what I was doing. And sometimes it took one or two, and sometimes it took 24. It would just be, maybe the day, the night, however I was feeling. But I didn't realize at the time. I thought blackouts were only when you went to sleep. I didn't know you could be completely awake during a blackout. And I was blacking out a lot more than I really thought I was. And, just being an ugly person, people would tell me, the next day, obviously I'd check my phone and, don't ever come around us again. I can't believe you did this. And I mean, it got to the point where everyone was just like, we're done. We're done with you. You've pretty much caused enough chaos, and, we don't want to have anything to do with you, which then in turn put me in a position where I just wanted to disappear. I didn't want to go on. I would stay home and drink by myself. And sometimes it was from the time I went to bed woke up, and then sometimes until I went to bed. And it was because I just didn't want to feel anymore. I didn't want to think about all the chaos I'd caused people. I didn't want to think about how my life was. I grew up with alcoholic parents. Both my mom and my dad are still alcoholics. And I always said I'd never want to be like them. And I did. I broke the cycle as far as like the physical abuse. But I did the same things my mom did. I would get upset and I would take it out on my kids. I've said some horrible, horrible things to my kids. I'd wake up sometimes not sure where my car was because, I either let somebody use it or I just didn't know where it was from, where I was. I woke up in places I didn't know where I was. And that's scary and not safe. I'm grateful now that I don't have to live that way. I was seeing a psychiatrist and, he would prescribe me anything I wanted. So, it was Adderall to get up in the morning and then, make it through the day. And then it was Klonopin because I was anxious because I couldn't drink until 5 o'clock. And so then I would take the Klonopin and then go home and drink, and then I would take Ambien. So like there wasn't a time during the day that I wasn't loaded on something. And it was exhausting. And I know my work was affected. I know that the people around me knew that there was something going on, but I'm an HR director. Nobody questions me. I'm sitting up in my office and everyone else, you do your job and you just leave me alone, because nobody really wants to come into the HR unless they know they're going to get in trouble.
No, they don't.
Our guy myself, I never like going voluntarily.
Yeah, I have to admit real quick, I've been doing what I do now for 36 years, and there's been a constant headbutt between me and HR. It's just how no one likes to. They need to change the lettering somehow because there's this thing that comes over me when I hear HR. and it's never good.
And that too, it's hard because I am a social person, so being at work where nobody liked me, that was hard for me. Nobody wanted to come see me in my office, so I'm like, which it did. And it was me not feeling good about myself, and me thinking, oh, poor me. It's all about me, where you know I'm there to do a job, and they don't want to come see me because either you're going to get fired or you're in trouble for something. Where I started buying people popsicles so that they would like me and just say that there's treats in the refrigerator. It was just, I, I've now, I would send out emails. When things would be calm, I would send out emails just to cause a little bit of chaos and just to get people riled up. And I mean, that's just who I am. That's who I was. I didn't really think about people in a positive way. I was always, what can they do for me? Or, what am I going to get from them? And I don't have to do that anymore. And I learned that through the program because I was a taker. I was not a giver. I didn't grow up with a lot of affection in my house, so I didn't know how to love. And that's probably one of the hardest things with my kids is because I didn't know how to nurture. Um, they say it comes like natural for women, and it was hard for me because I didn't want to feel. I didn't know what love was. I mean, I loved my kids obviously when they were born because I was their mom, but I didn't know how to show love. I didn't know how to care about somebody because I was so worried about myself all the time. And it was, one of the hardest things is like not thinking I was a good mom, where I was doing the best I could. I was a young mom. I had my daughter when I was 19, so I didn't have a lot of anyone to help me a lot. My mom, absolutely didn't want to have anything to do with the grandkids, so it was just me taking care of her by myself, and that put me in a depression. And I didn't drink in high school at all. I
Really? Really?
mm-mm, not at all. I was actually a really good girl in high school. I think I tried a beer one time, and I remember I was at a party and I drank, tasted it, and I was like, "Oh, this is terrible." And I remember like pouring it out behind my chair, and like pretending I drank it, and pretending I was drunk. I don't know why. I mean, I thought I was.
Uh, Matt's done worse.
Way worse. Way worse.
But I did. When I turned 21, I was actually here in Louisiana, and I went to go buy alcohol just because it was like I could. And I was expecting like the balloons and the streamers all to come down. It would be like this great event. And the lady didn't even ask me for my ID. And I was like, oh, that was disappointing. But I did drink when I turned 21, and it was, I'm going to probably age myself in saying this, it was a Zima. So I know.
Mm, mm.
I
Oh no, I was about 21 when Zima came out, and Matt, you were probably about 17. So yeah,
Had things in my life. I've ingested a lot of horrible substances. Never had a Zima. Just want to go on the record with that.
it was bad, but I drank it, and I do believe that was the first time I did get drunk, and I liked it. I liked the way that it made me feel. It was like I could finally not have to think about things. I wasn't having to worry about me, how I was going to pay my bills and get to work, because at the time I didn't have a car. I was walking back and forth to work and having a newborn baby and just all of the things that I was worrying about. It felt like I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't feel those feelings. And that's kind of where I think everything started off. I just wanted to change the way I felt, and that's what I did. I changed the way I felt, and I like that. I didn't realize what a jerk I was to people because I didn't care. I cared about the way that I was feeling, and it was then where I started kind of just drinking like whenever I could get it, because a lot of time I didn't have any money, but when I did, that's what I wanted to do. I mean, I've done terrible things. My daughter, my parents would watch her, occasionally, and they would call me like at 11:30, 12 o'clock, to come get her, and I'd go get her and I'd leave her in my car while I'd go inside the bar. I mean, now as someone who is not in my addiction, I can't even imagine that. I have grandkids now, and I cannot even imagine my 1-year-old or my 2-year-old grandchild in the car because their mom is in the bar getting drunk, and then to drive home with her. I'd be drunk, and I mean, this is from like 11 until 2 in the morning when the bar's closed. I mean, they don't close at 2 o'clock here, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would drive home with her, drunk in the car, and I mean, just chaos, and just on and on. Everything kind of just compiled. And her being young, her and I kind of grew up together, so like she and I have such a close relationship. And it, it those are the things that when I think about, when I did my 4th step, I said, these are the things that bother me. I didn't realize that when they said to forgive yourself first, that was hard, because I still don't know how to forgive myself for things that I've done. I'm working on it. I'm working on not having to hate myself every day for the things that I did. And I think that's another reason why I didn't want to get sober, because I don't want to have to think about those horrible things. If I didn't think about it, then I wouldn't have to ever worry about it or have to admit it.
Hey, so what's your sobriety date? I've been meaning to ask you.
She told us October the 8th.
8th of 2024.
Okay.
Yeah, so you just celebrated a year.
Just celebrated a year. And to
Yeah.
be honest, that is the longest I've ever been sober as an adult, which is huge for me.
I got a year when I was like 4 years old. There between 4 and 5, I had a continuous year, but I don't count that really. I get a chip or anything. Yeah. No, that's
Probably
awesome.
got a potato chip,
Didn't hear
Matt.
it earlier.
Matt's from South Louisiana. You probably got a potato chip or something. Cheeto.
True story. I took a guy drunk to an AA meeting in the city of Shreveport. Hammered. This dude is hammered drunk. At the end, they said, "We have chips," and they stood up, and he bolted out of his chair. He thought Doritos or something, and I was like, "Sit down, big guy."
Okay. Oh, I muted Nicole on accident. I'm sorry, Nicole. Go ahead.
I've had a lot of desire chips. I thought that, I hear a lot of people say they could have made a necklace. I probably could have. I remember when I got my first big book, I don't know if I ever even opened it. I remember the day when I actually threw it away because I had it in a drawer, and I was like, oh, I don't need this anymore. I'm not an alcoholic. And now I read my big book. I say my prayers. I didn't understand when people would talk about the higher power. I always thought it was just on my will. If I'm able to stay sober, if I can string enough days along, that's how I'm going to stay sober. But I know now, and I understand that it took me finding a higher power to help me through those days and help me through my sobriety. And that to me is probably one of the most important things that I've had in having a relationship with my higher power, and understanding that I can rely on him when, somebody doesn't pick up the phone, or I'm not wanting to call somebody. I do pray. I'm able to say, please. And it's not like everyone says, the foxhole prayers. It's not like, God, please just get me out of this situation. It's like, God, please get in my head before I do, because I'm automatically, I'm thinking way ahead, or I'm thinking in the past. So God, just put you in me before I get in me, and then give me the thoughts, give me something to say nice, or something that I don't treat people bad, because I don't want to do that anymore. I don't want to use people just for what I can get. And I really want to treat people well, and it's not even because I want them to like me, it's because I want them to be treated well. Whereas before, I'm like, I'm going to do everything I can to make you like me. And now I don't as much as I want to control things and make you like me, that's not what's important to me anymore. It's this that I am a good person and I'm trying to be a better person each day.
I think what's really cool that we hear from a lot of people, and we're hearing it with you, the family aspect of growing up in it, and then being able to break that. You know what I mean? Um, I, my parents didn't drink at all, neither one of them, but all my uncles did, and they all still drink, and the ones that are still alive, and so sometimes we get handed something. I think through hereditary or whatever you want to call it. And like you said, your folks are still they still active drinkers, and that's hats off to you. That's hard enough doing it by yourself, much less to have that family thing, and a lot of people have to deal with that. So that's really cool to get to a year.
So, Nicole, when was your first AA meeting ever? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was in 2018. It was August 7th of 2018.
And that was at the Koala Club?
It was here at the
Yeah, I think I remember. I remember you coming in.
yeah.
And so between 2018 and October 2024, that's really only 6 years, right?
Yeah. It was a
And
long 6 years.
yeah, I mean, yeah, it's a long sit. Yeah, especially when all those bad things are happening. But to be honest with you, I've seen folks come in and you don't see them again for a decade, right? And then they come in and all of a sudden they get it. So, that's it's just it takes what it takes, and you hear that a lot. We all hear that a lot, and I think there's still some things. I don't know about Matt; he may be a little bit different, but there's some things that when it comes to forgiving ourselves, I still have trouble sometimes thinking about the things I did. My kids are kind of like yours. My kids are grown, and I got my oldest grandson's about to be 8 years old. I mean, it's not. The one thing I have learned is time does just keep going, no matter how you look at it. Sometimes those things, you just think about it and go, I cringe sometimes at the things I put my kids through whenever I was drinking. That's a big one, your kids, and it always is. But truth is, if you have a good relationship with them now, just hang on to it because that's just
Yep.
me and my son make jokes about it sometimes, the stuff that I did whenever I was drinking. And we make jokes about some of the stuff he did when he was drinking. Unfortunately, mine didn't cost a whole lot of money. His did. But
He got his money's worth, huh?
yeah, yeah, he got my money's worth, is what he got. That's
That's
what he
even
got.
better. It's smart, really.
But this to be honest with you, he lives in South Carolina. He's a successful dude, and he understands the disease of addiction a little bit better now. And I don't beat myself up quite as much over what I did, and it just gets better every day. It does. But you were probably, I don't know how many, Matt, the fifth maybe person we've interviewed on their right after their first birthday.
Yeah.
And then we go back and we interview them on the second birthday and then the third. And you just see, what is a light just keeps getting brighter and brighter. You just got to stay sober. That's it.
Absolutely.
And
But
that
you
what you're
seem to
saying
learn a
about
lot.
forgiving yourself is like the last thing to go. Like for me it was. I had all my stuff and my steps and my resentments and my amends and all these things done, but I was still hanging on to that guy in the mirror that I had to look at. And my sponsor said, "Wait a minute, we've forgiven, we've prayed for, we've done all these things for everybody else. And do you agree they're all God's children?" And I said, "Sure. And he said, "Are you one?" And I said, "Yeah, everybody is." And he said, "Then why don't you treat yourself the same way?"
Yeah.
And I went, And he said, but it took me a couple of years to really work on that. And I still, like Mike, I have moments, sometimes where I'm just like, "You suck, dude," like, but for the most part today, I know my heart's in the right place and that I'm trying to do the correct thing. I may not always do it, but I go back and try to fix it if I do screw something up. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that today. And but that will for me, that was the last big thing, hurdle that I had to really it getting a lot better, you know.
So, Nicole, who's your sponsor?
Jessica.
And I didn't mean to say who. I meant, do you have one? I don't know why I said
I
who.
do.
But hats
It,
off to Jessica. I
and
don't guess I know her.
she
But
is.
She's amazing.
I
I had a hard time even thinking about doing my 4-step,
and
and I kept putting it off.
I don't suggest this, but like I just did my 4-step probably a month ago. Um and it was just my fourth and my fifth, but it was just so hard for me to like physically see things on the paper. I tried to do one with my sponsor, prior sponsor, and she and I were on the telephone, which I don't suggest either. And I had everything written down, and the one thing that I really needed to get out I skipped over, and she didn't know. And so when all those feelings started coming up that, I've been pushing down, they were like right here on the surface. So like that one thing I needed to get out, and I needed to say it, to have relief from it. And as soon as I told Jessica about it, she kind of looked at me like, why? And it kind of took away the power, because a lot of time I have held on to what I had in that 4-step, that it was like so awful, it was so terrible. And just her reaction to me, it was just like, I could breathe. And I don't have that lingering over my head anymore. I've said it, it's out, and I don't have, it doesn't have power over me the way it did. And I'm able to work on that. And, it's going to eventually come up in my 8th step, but I, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with having to do the things that I need to do to get through it, because I have relief. I didn't think this would ever happen. I don't have that heaviness on me. I don't have that reason why I want to drink, to get rid of all that icky feeling. I'm able to say, okay. And like I did the other night, I presented the 4-step at a meeting, and as I was getting ready to do that, a lot of something else came up that I had not thought about. So like I called her up, I said, hey, can we talk before the meeting, because I want to get this out, because I didn't want it to sit there, and I see now that like when things come up, I talk about it. I don't just push it down, and even tonight I was talking about how to resentment, and just not having to linger in that feeling, and just getting perspective from other people that, resentments will fester, and they will make you eventually, they're the worst offenders. So I don't want to sit on that anymore. I don't want to sit and and a lot of time it's just me and my feelings getting hurt, and somebody not doing exactly what I wanted them to do, and I have to be told, it's not all about you, Nicole. You're not the most important person, and not everyone is like, your little puppets. And so I have to. I never thought that coming to AA meetings would be something I wanted to do. I Every time I come in the door, whatever's on my mind, I'll hear something, even if I don't share. I'll hear something. But everyone here, they're my people. We're all the black sheep that everyone kind of said. The black sheep of the family. That's all of us, and I'm okay being a black sheep, and I'm okay being around everyone here. It makes me a better person. Doing service work. I never thought I'd go to the jails and go to the treatment centers, but that to me is probably the most I get from, more than a meeting, just going in there and seeing people, and just being able to give maybe some hope, that I've been there, and I will do whatever I can to try to help you not feel the way you're feeling right now. And I pray every time I go in the meetings, God, please let something I say touch somebody, or just make a little bit of sense, because if I can do it, anyone can do it, because I didn't want to do it. I just didn't think it would happen for me. I didn't think that I'd get what everyone else had. And I'm getting a little bit of that every day. And that's just, it's a gift that I want to give away. I want someone to feel that. I want them to have the peace, because that was what I was looking for. I was looking for peace, and I have that now. I can go to bed. I don't take Ambien anymore, which is a miracle in my life. I don't have to take an Ambien to go to sleep. I'm able to lay down, pray, and go to sleep. And that's never happened. I mean, never. When I say ever, whenever I first got the medicine, I've been on it forever. And I finally said, I'm done. And I do. I pray to God and I go to sleep and I'm able to sleep.
Do you sponsor anybody yet?
I actually got asked, somebody asked me to sponsor her 3 days ago. So I'm working with her, and
Pretty cool.
which, I'm scared. And I told my sponsor, I'm like, I'm so afraid what if it doesn't work? What if I tell her the wrong thing? She's like, just tell her what you feel, what you think, and give her what you feel that you have. And there's nothing you can do that's going to make her do anything. You just have to give her your hope, your story, what helped you stay sober. And in doing so, like even her relying on me just to be at the other end of the telephone when she calls, and that to me is wonderful.
Well, you sound pretty knowledgeable about what you've picked up in the past year, or however, you
Yeah,
obviously you don't forget anything. I've seen people come in for 3 weeks, leave, come back for a year, leave, come back. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
you always pick up something that you're going to keep forever, no matter how it is. That's what brings some of us back after a distance. So
yeah.
you've obviously picked up a lot, and you kind of put the parts together, um, where the concept of the program of recovery is starting to make sense to you, and that's when it's time to start sharing it, right, Matt?
Yep, yep.
How many people you sponsor, Matt?
I've got 7 inmates in the Department of Corrections. I'm sponsoring all those guys. Yeah. No, I mean,
You talking about your kids?
well, though that's a whole other ball of wax right there.
Matt sends that
Um,
50 cents a month to
but
wherever.
and it sounds selfish, and I kind of joke about it, but like I do, I have 2 guys right now in jail that I sponsored, and you know what? I'm real grateful I ain't in jail, and I don't
Yeah.
have to. I don't have to mail letters to people, and I don't have to try to find money on my books. And early in sobriety, I would have took that a lot harder. And but I don't. I mean, you can do what we do, and you can get what we have. If you choose not to, you get what you get on that too. And I'll be glad to help them when they get out, or whatever. If they want to go again, we'll go again. But yeah, if nothing else, sometimes it just makes you grateful that you're not living that life anymore.
So
So
Nicole, let me ask you this: like in the first year of recovery, a lot of times people will kind of redirect that energy somewhere else, right? They'll go start running, doing marathons, bodybuilding, whatever it is. I mean, I've seen it usually comes in the form of doing something physical,
Yeah.
right? Just whatever it is. It's, for me, I'm I just went to work more, instead of working 5 days a week, I started working seven, and I still do. And that kind of weird, but I guess my question is, have you found time outside of AA to do stuff for yourself?
That's one thing I'm really working on that. I need a hobby. I need to do something because I'll go to work. I go to a meeting at noon. I go to work or come home, and then I come to like a 5:30 meeting, and then I go to bed. You know, so I need to do something that, my daughter's like, she does those little diamonds, like print, like paintings, and she's like, do those. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have the patience for that. But I do need to find something that, is for me. I've always wanted to do a half marathon, and that might be something that I would be able to eventually do. I mean, I really would love to go run again.
Yeah, I think that even just the training for it in itself is something. I just think, even, I've been sober. Matt called me today earlier and was telling me, Matt, how long you been sober?
7 years.
Okay. So Matt's been sober 7 years, and today he found time to go by some golf course somewhere and catch a whole bunch of white perch and just, but he did that for himself, right? And
Yeah.
that's something that even, at 7 years, he found time to do
Yeah.
something for himself that didn't involve anybody. So just by chance, I jumped on a motorcycle today, or not a motorcycle. I didn't go pick one and jump on it. I have one out there, and I went, but I just got on. I rode down to Lake Tahoe. Just rode down, took some pictures, turned around, came back, and that was just to kind of clear my head. Because if not, I'll get to where I'll go to meetings, go to sleep, and go
Mhm.
to work, and that'll be my entire life. And sometimes I got to remember, I didn't get sober just to do
Mm.
the things that I was supposed to have been doing all along. This is time to where, I can actually get in. And the reason I brought any of that up was because that a lot of times doing those things helps whatever chemical it is in our brain, and we all know what it's called, but helps that produce itself and get back in our bloodstream and just kind of it for me, it eased some of that guilt, it eased some of that shame, it eased some of that remorse, and I kind of remember, hey, I'm a human too, right?
Yeah.
I get to be able to do stuff, and I think that at a year, it's just kind of, man, once it's took hold, obviously, but
Yeah.
once it does, it's so easy to get I hate to say this on the show, but it's almost easy to get addicted to AA.
Yeah.
And oh, I get to do a big book study this week. Oh, I get to be a
Mhm.
speaker at oh, I'm going to a convention, or all these things. And before you know it, you're I hate to say this, I'll speak for myself, I'm not getting any younger, if that makes any sense. So I do something for yourself. I would always encourage that. And
Absolutely.
some people don't have to be encouraged. I got one sponsee that, I mean, just he had a year sober, and him and his spouse were going to Air Supply concerts, and every other
I know
20
said
band.
sponsee, and he needs no encouragement.
Yeah, but some folks do get tied down in that. But
Yeah.
hey, I guess it's all just part of that moving forward. It's pretty cool to hear you got a sponsee too. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That changes a lot. You start to see it's kind of like when you're a parent, you start to see the things that you kind of I did anyway. I started seeing the things that I resented in my parents
Yeah.
when I start saying, "Oh my God, no wonder they acted like this." And so that kind of puts me that, and then same with a sponsee, you start to see some of the things in that sponsee that come back onto you, and it helps your healing process as well. I told one of mine, I remember one time he called me just fit. He was tied up, and first thing I told him is, you just need a sponsee. Trust me, you're just thinking about yourself way too much. When you get a sponsee, they'll keep you busy.
Yeah.
Whether they drink or not, that ain't got nothing to do with us,
Right.
right? And can't mess them up any more than they already messed up. So, unless you take them drinking, I've heard stories about that too. But um, what's on your mind, Matt? Is that shirt orange?
It is, man. I came straight from fishing, and I'm going to tell you how important this podcast is. I kind of have a rule in life. I don't leave fish when they're biting. Okay. But I had to call Mike. I was building a resentment with myself that I left. I mean, it was hot, man. I was catching them. But I'm glad I did, because this is important. Them fish ain't going nowhere. And, um, you know, to bring that back to finding something that we like to do. When I first got sober, it was a time for me to like have some quiet time, and I did it with my sponsor. A lot of our stuff we talked out while we were fishing. But I've noticed 7 years down the road, I have a pile of nieces and nephews, and they've never seen me drink. None of them, and my kids for that matter, my younger kids. They know I can call Uncle Matt if I want to go fishing, and we can go fishing. And I just had three little nieces and nephews fishing a week ago, and I would rather sit out there and watch them ask weird questions and catch a few fish than I would have done what I did today. That was a lot more fun, and I get a lot of enjoyment out of that now. So it's not always Matt's got to catch fish.
Well, I got a question for you. So I understand what you do when you fish alone, but when you fish with family members, do you go to public or private courses?
It's public.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And the silly questions make perfect sense. You know, why are the security guards coming out here again and stuff like that?
Well, I'm not. I'm a work in progress, and I will say this: earlier in my sobriety, there were some questionable game and fish violations. Okay, and I'm going to leave it at that. I don't know if
Yeah. Please do. This is a family show.
yeah. I mean, there was probably some questionable trespassing issues. Me and Landry, my son, may or may not have done, and yeah, I hope to think I like to think I'm past that these days. I don't know if I am, but sometimes temptation is tough. But yeah, for the most part, it's public.
Well, Nicole, last question.
Mhm.
So let's just say a newcomer walked into the room today.
Mhm.
What kind, and I don't like to use the word advice, but they're crying and they want the life they have, but they know they can't live it because it's destructive, and not only to them but to the people they love. And but they don't know if they can do this AA thing, right? What suggestion would you offer that person if they came in today?
Perfect question, because somebody did come in today. Just just keep coming back. Just honestly, I mean, I didn't think it would work for me. I really and truly didn't, but it does, and it does get better, and relationships get better. And I mean, yes, you're going to see all the different people. I mean, we're all different, but there's one common. The common thing that keeps us together is the reason why we're here. And if you've ever came into an AA meeting, you obviously have a problem. We don't just come here to hang out. But I would just keep coming back. Just talk to people, reach out. I know that was the hardest thing for me. And I told her, text me, because a lot of times someone doesn't want to call. Text me and let's get out, on something. Just have some type of communication. um, the hardest thing is to talk to somebody. Just if you're in, like, have stuff going on, call somebody, reach out. That's the biggest thing. Don't keep it all in. Come to a meeting, when you want to and when you don't want to, because eventually I want to come to a meeting. And if I miss a few meetings, I'm like, I need a meeting. I'm just out of my head. I'm just not a good person right now, and I need to get into a meeting. Just try. Just try for 90 days. Try for 90 days. If after the 90 days you think this is all bull, okay, but try for 90 days. Just put an effort in. I mean, as much as we tried to get all the things we needed to do to keep ourselves in our addictions, try this for 90 days. And I mean, after that, we can reevaluate and talk it out. But right now, I mean, that's my advice to anyone. Just come to meetings. Just try it. Try this way. Just try this way of life. It's
Perfect.
worth it.
Perfect. I'm so glad to see that you have got your year. I can see it all written all over you, and that's just amazing. Thank you for doing the show, Matt. You got any closing comments?
The only thing I was going to back up what she just said. Two things. One, she just celebrated a year of sobriety. We had our business meeting for our group last night, and I left going home, and I was thinking about this with her and a few other folks that are a year or less in sobriety. Were in our business meeting, and their only concern was, what do we do to help the newcomer? What do we do for this meeting to be? And I'm like, that's the future is bright. You know what I mean? But we had nursing students in here tonight. We had three of them, and as they were leaving, I stopped them and talked to them for a second, and they were like, "What? What do people need to do to?" I said, "This is the simplest thing in the whole wide world. If somebody's dealing with addiction, you send them right here. It's free, doesn't cost a dime. It will never cost them a dime. We do it 5 days a week, 5 times a day, 7 days a week. Don't take Christmas off. We're always here. So there's no excuse if people don't want to that becomes their reasoning after a while. We're here all the time. So if you're out there and you're struggling, this is the place to be, man. The money's not an excuse. Access, time, none of that's an excuse. We have these things running all the time. So
Absolutely. Saved a lot of our lives.
absolutely.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap it up. We'll call it a show. Hope to see you in the future, Nicole. I'm
Thank
sure we
you.
will. Matt,
Absolutely.
I know I'll see you again in the future.
You can't stay away from me. So
Well, try to stay off them golf courses until we see each other again. And I don't think I have any closing announcements, and I usually do. And if I did, well, we'll put them on the next show. So, from Reno, Nevada, and Bossier City, Louisiana, we have been the Grouch and the Brainstorm.